top of the evening or night, wherever you want to call it, top of the morning, wherever you are in the world. So, yeah, I just decided to go live tonight and basically talk about all the craziness in which is happening in boxing and also some of the things in which are happening in track and field as well. Uh, I mean, there's so many things to unpack really with the boxing. If you've been following the channel, you have seen that I've, made I've voiced my opinion in how I feel about the whole thing with Oscar Valdez and what have you. But before I get to that, I would like to, just take a moment to just give my condolences to a warrior that lost her life in the ring just a couple of days ago in Canada. I believe her name was, I think it was Zanata or something like that. And she was 18 years old and she sustained injuries in her fight in the fifth round, I think. And, those injuries were life threatening and she eventually succumbed to those injuries. So I'm gonna say, may Allah give the family patience in dealing with their loss. And, my condolences go to her family because simple fact that it's a dangerous sport. It's a super dangerous sport. And at, even without steroids, you can lose your life in the sport of boxing. You know, that's how it is. Jeanette Zacharias, Jeanette Zacharias, yeah, Zacharias. So just just to put that into perspective, she's not the first one to lose her life this year to the sport of boxing. There was a Jordanian brother by the name of I forgot his name, but Rahmatullah lay to him. May Allah have mercy on him. He was trying for the Olympics and he lost his life to the sport of boxing. And granted, he had headgear on, so this is the thing. He had actually headgear and what have you. So with that being said, it's a high stakes game. And this is not to deflect upon myself, but even I know that like from being in the ring myself and putting in the work, that one thing can change it all. And it's so important to just really leave no stone unturned. And some people, because you want to look out for your welfare in the sport, will call you a runner and things like that. But as long as you get the job done and your senses are intact, then it's not going to matter uh, in the long run. You'll be a winner. I'm not quite sure if she was the first one lost her life in the sport of boxing. Uh, as far as a woman is concerned, I'll have to like research that. So I'm not gonna say I know. I'm gonna just say I don't know if she was or not. Now, before I get to all the ugly, the dirty stuff and everything, I guess you can say there is some good news that is coming out of the boxing world right now. It looks as if, we're nearing closer to a Terrence Crawford Showtime Sean Porter fight. So, with that being said, that's a good thing, because on one hand, you have Showtime Sean Porter, who's been in there with all the people and the top of his division. You have people, he's been in there with Broner. He's been in there with Danny Garcia. He's been in there with Keith Thurman. He's been in there with Kell Brook. He's been in there with Earl Spence. So he's been in there with all the top guys in the welterweight division. So by him getting in there with Terrence Crawford, this solidifies him not only as, a welterweight who has been in there with the best, but it also gives Terrence Crawford some needed momentum in the simple fact that he's fighting a guy who has been in there with all the top guys in the welterweight division. So it's twofold, and it's a good thing that the fight, hopefully, inshallah, the fight is going to happen. You know what I mean? Hopefully we get the fight. They're talking about having it in November, which is kind of crazy that they will have it around the same time, if that's what they're planning on doing. But we just have to wait and see. I think I'm hoping that the fight will be signed, sealed, and delivered soon, because that'll be some good news that is necessary in the world of boxing. Now, another thing that has been brought to my attention is that we now have the WBA, which has decided that it's going to get rid of all these interim belts. So as a result of that, potential fights are going to be made, and we have more potential fights available. You have perhaps like Murata will fight, I don't know, Murata may fight the likes of Arislandi Lara or something like that because of these interim belts getting left behind. You have the likes of maybe Arislandi Lara versus Chris Eubanks Jr. And truthfully speaking, everybody knows I'm big on Lara. And I think because of Lara's skill set, that he is in his late 30s, but able to beat guys who are younger than him. You saw what happened in the cornflake fight. He turned him into some frosted flakes, right? Because the way he hit him, basically, it just landed smooth, cleanly on the bone, which turns out the lights. That's how he did it. So another fight that has been brought to the limelight is now, and there's been some back and forth, but at the end of the day, I really don't rate Rowley. You know what I mean? Because of his antics that he has pulled before. He was barking big about, I'll fight Haney, and you're afraid to fight me. Oh, you're chinny. You're the biggest BITCH in boxing. All types of stuff. He was saying all these things, but to no avail. It's as if he didn't want to. It is, as the case may be, that he doesn't want to fight Haney. So now you have the case of the WBA actually ordering a Tank versus Rowley fight. Now, it is my hope that this fight goes through, but I don't know if it's going to go through or not, because you have to understand of the dynamics, what's going on. Now, it would be the easiest fight to make, of course. It would be a very easy fight to make. Very simple. The reason being that they're under the same promotional banner. They're under Mayweather Promotions, right? So, with that being said, you would think that there would be no problem in the fight coming to fruition. But you have to understand something. You're dealing with Floyd Mayweather. And Floyd Mayweather, when he, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but Floyd Mayweather is not the best promoter. That's the thing. He's not really the best promoter. And the reason why I say that is because he has a lot of young fighters in the stable, but they're not active. And it's like, okay, well, you have these fighters, but they need to fight and they're not fighting. So this is why I say, okay, well, you know what I mean? Like, yes, he does have Tank, and Tank is people are in love with Tank's power and what have you. That's good and all, but he does dumb things outside of the ring. But we're not going to even get started on that. But Floyd has other talent that he doesn't. I don't know if he is having trouble managing that other talent. I don't know what the issue is really with it, but Floyd has more talent than people know of. So he needs to move that talent. One guy in specific, and then I'll get back to the whole fight with Tank and Rowley. One guy that definitely needs to be moved in specific, who's very talented and needs to stay active and needs to get more accommodated with the with the pro ranks is Richardson Hitchens. You know, you have Richardson Hitchens, who is basically a boxer, a pure boxer, and he needs to get fights. He needs to stay active. So with that being said, they need to like really get that. They really need to get that going. They need to really push that guy, right? So now you're in a case of basically you have Rowley and you have Tank ordered by the WBA, but knowing Floyd's reach, you never know if he wants that fight to be made or not. You know, because those are two in-house fighters, which maybe he'll feel is is a conflict of interest, basically, in regards to them fighting. So it remains to be seen what will happen. One thing that maybe will happen, okay, and we have to be ready for this to happen, is since I believe David Morell Jr. he holds I believe David Morell Jr. holds a WBA interim champion belt. Okay. So David Morell holds the interim championship belt. David Morell Jr., he fights at 168. So if they get rid of these interim belts, You know what that means? That means that potentially David Morell Jr. would be next in line to fight the Canelo and the Plant winner. And that's pretty heavy. And as I said before, I've always rated David Morell Jr. David Morell Jr., I think, has the goods. I think David Morell Jr. And people think I'm sounding far fetched. People think I'm sounding very far fetched when I say this. I think David Morell Jr. is the best 168 pounder. I think that, like, because he's already getting ducked. You had a guy named John Ryder who was supposed to fight David Morell Jr. for the interim belt. John Ryder has gotten very cold feet and does not want to fight David Morell Jr. So, with that being said, people already see the potential of David Morell Jr. They already see things that they're like, oh crap, you know what I mean? I'm in for it now. So, if this is the case, then he may be able to do something very special. If these fights get ordered and these fights go through, he may be able to do something very special. He may have the potential to do something that maybe has not even been done before, right? And I'm here for it. I would love to see it happen. Definitely. But now, I almost hate to move on to this, but I have to talk about it. But before I start, I would just like to say number one, you can't really try to deflect when someone gets pop hot, when someone has a dirty test. You can't like really deflect and then deflect and say, well, such and such else had a dirty test. You can't really do that. That doesn't really work, you know, especially when it's not been proven that that person has popped dirty. When it's not proven that the person is dirty, you can't really try to move the goalposts back. It doesn't work like that, right? So, what people will do is they'll say, well, oh, Floyd got caught. Floyd was using PEDs. You had even some people say, oh, Muhammad Ali was using PEDs. You have people say, um, oh, Mike Tyson was using PEDs. So you have a lot of people who are, in essence, deflecting the fact that, recently a fighter has gotten caught on PEDs, right? And he's not going to get stripped. And he's also going to keep his belt. Now, a lot of questions come with this happening. One of the questions is, okay, well, you're letting him keep his belt and you're letting him fight. But when David Benavidez, say, I'm not condoning what David Benavidez did. I'm not condoning that. Don't think that I'm saying that, yeah, it's okay to do what David Benavidez did. But David Benavidez, he got stripped when he got caught with he was playing with the coca. Nevertheless, he got stripped. But you look at Oscar Valdez, who was juiced to the gills. A and B sample came back dirty, not getting stripped. and also available to fight on the date that he was originally scheduled to fight on. So then you ask yourself, okay, well, if he's going to be allowed to cheat, right? Then everybody should be allowed to cheat. And I was on the Facebook forum, and shout outs to this guy. He sparked my mind. He sparked my mind in a major way. He said, and I agree with this. He said that if you want to cheat, that boxing should have separate, like have a league system where there's guys who are clean that fight each other, and then guys who are juiced to the gills who fight each other. And I think that's a good idea, personally. I think that's a wonderful idea. That if you want to cheat, no problem. We have a league where you can cheat. If you want to fight clean, no problem. We have a league where you can fight clean. That way, we can do away with all these basic testing methods that are failing. That means we can get away with VOD. We can maybe rid ourselves of. Well, now you maybe have to test the clean athletes too. Uh, if you do that, to make sure that none of them are trying to just pose clean while they're dirty, so they can get unfair advantages, right? So I'm in agreement for that. I think that should happen. I think that people who want to cheat and want to get juice to the gills, they can fight in one place. And then people who want to do it the clean way, they can fight in another place. So 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 now here's the thing. And I said this in another video. Boxing is a high stakes game. Boxing is almost like playing Russian roulette. Okay? It's a rewarding game, when you do things that you didn't think you can do, right? It's a very challenging game. It's the most difficult sport in the world. So, um, when you take a banned substance and you decide you want to fight, in essence, you're kind of making yourself even higher level at maybe killing someone in the ring. And mind you, there's people without um who aren't on anything who have killed people in the ring. There was that one, I think it happened maybe 2 years ago, where you had a Puerto Rican fighter who hit, like, I mean, you can tell this dude had some steam on his punches. You can tell that he had some serious power. And he beat this guy named Gassiev, who later died of brain injuries. So when you do these things and you're juiced to the gills, you're almost getting to a point where it's dang near like attempted murder, because you it's just that you have such an advantage, you know. I don't know if they can measure how many PEDs that were in the system or the amount that's in the system. I don't know the specifics, but I do know that both the A and B sample came back dirty. And so yeah, that's the only thing I know. And this is Oscar Valdez's first time being caught with a substance. So the thing is that in such a high stakes game, why would you want to cheat? That's the thing. It's very high stakes. It is a life threatening game, but at the same time, it can be very rewarding, right? I mean, you can get some life changing money in the game and invest the money. You can put the money towards so many things in the game. You get $100,000 purse, you pay your trainers, you make sure you pay taxes, and then you buy a business or something, right? You make an investment, right? Because it's a lump sum of money that you'll get from fighting. So now you look at the case of him, and he's being permitted to fight despite getting caught with all kinds of things. I think it was fentanyl that he got caught with. So if I were his opponent, I would go to the nearest thing smoking, get some substances of my own and juice to the gills so you can be ready for what's to come on the fight day. So it will be an even playing field. Oscar Valdez has came out and said, I'm 100% 10, I'm 100% clean athlete. He's came out with his alibi and what have you. But, I don't buy his alibi. I think it's BS, of course. I'm allergic to BS. But I know people will give him the benefit of the doubt, and I get it. But I'm not one of them. So that fight will continue. Yeah, I understand boxing is about money. I understand that, there's boxing. And I believe that with that fight, it's a hometown fight. So obviously, you're going to want to put your hometown hero and make money, revenue streams from your hometown hero. I get it. But what message is this really sending, though? What the message that's being sent, in my opinion, is that it's okay to cheat. That if you're connected with the right people, you can juice to the gills and get away with it. That's Hey, salute, man. You want to come up on here and talk about this and cook on this, man? You want to come up on here and join the panel, talk about this whole fiasco we got going on, man? I need some opposing viewpoints because maybe people aren't. Maybe I'm seeing things differently, But the way I see things is that that whole camp is probably juice to the gills. You look at Andrew Ruiz and his drastic weight cut. You look at Ryan Garcia and how big he is. All of a sudden, Ryan Garcia, he was looking scrawny. And then you look at him now and you're like, okay, well, what are you on? I want some of what you got. I'm gonna drop the link in case you want to come up, chat. We can kick this and I can get your opinion on this matter, man. So yeah, if you want to click the link, you can come up and we can talk about this. I just did the live you know, kind of like just like it was kind of spontaneous, you know what I mean? But um you have other professional fighters who are not too happy at this. Hell, you have even old media not really happy at this happening. You have you have what you call it, you have you basically have Mike Coppinger going off about letting which one call it continue to fight. Oscar Valdez continue to fight. And I'm surprised this is Mike Coppinger going off at this. I was really surprised to hear what his words say, you know. Nah, take your time, bro. Take your time. You know, I love talking about this. Like it's better when you have a full panel, you know what I mean? If you have someone else to talk about this with, you know. But yeah, as I was saying, you have new media, you have old media. Mike Coppinger actually not happy at the events that transpired. And then you would think that he would not care. Granted that, you know, he works for ESPN, top rank is top ranked fights on ESPN. So you would think he would be a yes man, but it's quite the contrary with him. And I was actually surprised at that. You know, that actually surprised me with with that whole happening. You know what I mean? So I watched the video. You hear Oscar Valdez say, "I'm a clean athlete. I've never tested dirty." But then again, in his last fights, when he was not with Eddie Reynoso, he looked very ordinary, right? Wasn't knocking anybody out when he wasn't fighting under Eddie Reynoso, right? Many people thought he was average, even when he wasn't fighting under Eddie Reynoso. Fast forward, he fights under Eddie Reynoso, and he knocks out Miguel Berchelt, the top guy at the division. You know, knocks him out. So that already royal raised my eyebrows. And then it's like all of a sudden you like kind of look. It seems like he didn't even fade during that fight at all, right? So that's why I'm like, okay, well, this kind of is raising my eyebrows. You know, look at Andrew Ruiz, as I said, and he does something that really raises my eyebrows. He cuts weight, he cuts a lot of weight, cuts a lot of weight, cuts a lot of weight, and then on the day of the fight, he's back Andrew Ruiz, like having full weight, basically. And then he cuts weight again, cuts weight again, cuts weight again. Then during fights, he's back to full weight. So it's like you're cutting weight so quick, not in the fight, but then when it's fight night, you're already ready to go, having all this weight on you. So I'm like, yeah, man, it's not looking too convincing to me that they're clean fighters. Here's the thing. I'm just keep it honest. Eddie Reynoso doesn't teach footwork. That's just the bottom line. That's why I said Frank Sanchez, being a Cuban boxer, he needs to get his ass to the next thing smoking to Mr. Ishmael Salas's gym, which Ishmael Salas is Ishmael Salas even calls his gym the House of Fundamentals. He calls it the House of Fundamentals. So what does that tell you on what type of coach he is? So if I were Frank Sanchez, I would get on the next thing smoking, go there, and be a Cuban boxer. Because under Eddie Reynoso, I'm like, yo, like, what is this guy doing? Like, he comes from Cuba. Like, why is he fighting like this? You know? So that's what I'm saying. So I have a theory too, and many people aren't gonna agree with this theory, but I have a theory that uh the reason why Canelo hasn't been fighting on Independence Days, on his country's Independence Days, is he's cycling off that shit. Because here's the thing. When he got caught the first time, he didn't expect them to show up in Mexico, but they did show up in Mexico, right? And so that's when he got caught up. So this is why I'm like, man, you know, I'm not really convinced, bro. I'm not really convinced that they're doing things honorably. Yeah, nah, I get it. Nah, trust me, I get it. You're all good, bro. So you had Caleb Plant. I mean, Caleb Plant went off. He went livid. I'm looking at the tweets. You had Caleb Plant saying you guys are bitch. He went off. Like he really went off on the whole thing. And the crazy thing is that like uh they didn't respond back. You didn't have anything. As a matter of fact, um, as a matter of fact, you had you had Eddie Reynoso respond back to Devin Haney, but Eddie Reynoso has not said anything to Caleb Plant at all. You know, so I was like, wow, this dude is going off. He went off on this clown named Lalo's Boxing. He's the big, that dude is like, he doesn't even hide his racial bias. That fool put the Mexican flag on his profile. He doesn't even hide his racial bias towards fighters. And I'm like, okay, this is intense. This is heavy, you know. But D'Lo, what's good, man?
What's good? That's wrong.
Yeah, man, talk your stuff, man. What do you think of this state of this crazy corrupted boxing game we're in, and this crazy almost colonized boxing game we're in?
Man, I just think it's crazy that these guys, when they fail these drug tests, you know what I'm saying, you got people ready to jump out, you know what I'm saying, right away, ready to defend them before anything comes out other than the fact that they failed the test. You know, and then you got, I mean, I'm talking about people in media, other fighters, fans, I mean, and then regardless of what comes out after that, they still just keep riding with 'em. I mean, it's just like I said about Errol Spence Jr. with the situation with the eye injury. For those people who didn't want to believe it was real, he could have brought out, he could have had a video record the surgery and posted the whole video. They'd have said it was fake. And it's the polar opposite when it comes to these other fighters when they're doing things that they shouldn't be doing. So it just, you know what I'm saying? It just blows my mind that these guys continue to, fail drug tests and then get benefit of the doubt. But it's even worse that sanctioning bodies and um, the commissions or will allow these guys to go ahead and fight. I mean, this situation, like even like with Dillian White, I don't think Dillian White should have been allowed to fight. I felt like
Fact,
the
fact,
results should have been
fact.
overturned. He should have been suspended for him. It should have been a long time because he already had been suspended a couple times. I think he already had been suspended twice for PEDs, but I know at one point he was suspended for 2 years. So when you've
Right.
already suspended for 2 years for PEDs, and then you get popped, you pop again after that. I
Right.
mean, in any other sport, it will probably be a lifetime ban.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Nah,
So
definitely in track and field, it's like two after you get like two times, they're like, nah, you're out. Or they're like, they'll ban you for 5 years because here's what happened. I'll tell you, I'll give you an example. I'll let you go on. There was this one runner named Brianna Rollins, and Brianna Rollins, she was supposed to do like they were going to show up at tests. They were going to show up, or I believe like it was her responsibility for her to be available to take random tests, and so she missed some tests. The first ban was like maybe for a couple of months, but then the second ban is for 5 years. So with the second ban being for 5 years, she wasn't even able to compete in this Olympics, and she won't be able to compete in the next Olympics as well. So they take that mess serious, man. They do in other sports.
and they should. I mean, you look at even like Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. when Votto was trying to test him, and he hid and refused to take the test and all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that should have been an automatic suspension. Yeah.
Facts. Nah,
And,
definitely,
and in and,
definitely.
and in this case here, the last thing I seen, the WBC done come out saying that it's not a performance enhancing drug, but everywhere else you look, it's listed as a stimulant. I mean, how could it not be a performance enhancing drug, but it's on Votto's list as a PED? You
That's what
know,
I'm saying.
regardless of whether it's also a diuretic, it's still, it's
It's
still it's it,
listen,
it
exactly.
stimulates
Listen,
the
listen.
the central nervous system.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's giving you a big time edge. Okay. You're getting an edge regardless. So for you to say that it's not a stimulant or not anything like that, this just goes to show you, like, and I'm just gonna straight out say it, that it's like almost like a Canelo type mafia type thing. It's like it's almost like a mafia type thing that if you're associated with Canelo, you pretty much get a slap on the wrist for doing whatever the hell you want, and people are dying in the ring without being on anything. So you mean to tell me that you're signing off on people like getting a higher chance at dying in the ring, you know? And I'm gonna say one more thing before you go, before I let you tap in. They're not the only ones who got caught in that camp. Louis Neary was in that camp. He popped dirty. And there was another fighter in that camp besides the two, besides the ones that people are knowing of, that popped dirty too.
Yeah, I think his name's like Christian Martinez or something like that. I can't remember what other guy's name that popped dirt as well. But yeah, I mean, man, and like you said about Andy, if you look at Andy from the Areola fight was just a couple months ago. If you look at him from the Areola fight to now, man, he looks drastically different. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, I don't know, man. It's just I look at it like this. I mean, some of the stuff, yeah, it's speculation, but at the same time, I just don't believe in a whole bunch of coincidences. Over and over and over.
Well, here's the thing, bro. And I'm gonna just keep it a buck with you. Here's the thing. When Canelo got his surgery during the time he popped dirty, the surgery was because he had like some hardened blood in his knee. It wasn't like a injury that he got from like working out or anything. It wasn't an injury he got from like doing squats or anything like that. It happened from blood getting hardened in his knee. Now we fast forward, and guess who else gets knee surgery? Mr. Andrew Ruiz. And I like Andrew Ruiz in terms of his fighting style. He got some very fast hands. That's one thing that I really respected about him is that for his like body composition, he has some fast ass hands. But now I have to like look at him side eye because of this, you know.
Yeah, let me chime in on Andy. I like Andy just like like you said, Andy. I think Andy's a good fighter. I like him. You know what I'm saying? Um, but I'll say this: after Andy won that title, Andy couldn't enjoy being the champion because he was so ashamed and embarrassed of all the stuff people said about his body. You know what I'm saying? It's like he became, more concerned about, you know, and I think that played a part in how he why he ended up gaining all the extra weight. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's how sometimes people have success and they kind of, you know, become withdrawn. You know what I'm saying? And I think, he was just this fat boxer that nobody really knew. Then all of a sudden he was this fat boxer who beat the world champion and everybody was talking about him and people weren't talking they were talking more about how he looked than they were about his win. And I think they got to him. So you fast forward and now he's with this team and all these guys getting chiseled and jacked up. And you think Andy, you know, with him being that concerned about how he looks, would really kind of, would go against the grain and be like, oh no, I'm not gonna do what you guys are doing. I think he would be right on board with anything that they're doing because Andy wants to look the part, and I think Andy, is satisfied with having done what he's done in terms of beating AJ. Now I think he wants to look like a boxer. And I said they're going into the Areola fight. I said I feel like Andy is more, he's more concerned about how he looks than how he fights going forward.
Right, right, right.
And
And you know,
look at the Areola fight. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Andy could have lost that fight. Andy could have been stopped, within 3 rounds of that fight.
true, true, true. No, I remember that fight that yeah, it wasn't it didn't really have it was the performance really didn't look that good. You know what I mean? But against Areola. And here's another thing. One might say, and this is what the Canelo fans do. This is the one thing that the Canelo fans do. One may say that okay, well, what about the snack fighters? What about the fighters who are on snack? What about the fighters who do snack? Right? So my thing is this. Victor Conte was indeed involved in some shady dealings. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that he was part of a scandal and what have you. But my thing is, if what was if what was going on Snack, an illegitimate thing, you know, I don't think that people like Devin Haney and Caleb Plant would risk their reputation and call out these like dirty fighters if they themselves are dirty.
Right.
That's my
Like
thing.
you're gonna draw unnecessary attention to yourself, It's and see that's and I'm gonna tell you, it's funny that you bring Snack up. I was just on Facebook, probably about 30 minutes ago, and somebody had posted all these names, all these guys that are with Snack and working with Victor Conte, and they brought up Valco and all that stuff. And I said, well, tag me with one of those guys, Pop 30. And then the guy tagged me, somebody tagged me. I said, okay, throw a name out there, remind me, refresh my memory. And they brought up Berto. I said, man, Berto popped 30 before Snack was ever even a thing in boxing. You know what I'm saying? Like Berto failed a drug test way back when the Victor Ortiz fight, the first Victor Ortiz fight. So, it's like that you can't attach Snack to him failing a drug test. But it's like, they're just grasping at straws and they're trying to deflect. And I'm gonna tell you, man, one of the things that really make me know that these fans don't really care is when they start asking these silly questions like, what does the drug do? Well, how much of the drug did he have in the system? Well, did he? How long did you say that he was on it for a long time, or was he on this and that? And it's like, man, at the end of the day is, what I'm saying, you're not this information you're not gonna get. The information you know is that he failed the drug test. Both samples came back dirty. Initially, as soon as it initially came out, he they came right out and said, "Oh, it was herbal tea." You know what I'm saying? Then it went
Right.
to I don't know how it got in my system, or now it's
Right. Right. Right.
I never
Right.
took anything, blah 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 blah. And then the WBC comes out and says, "Oh, it's not a PED."
Right.
So
The
it's
goal
just a big
post,
cover.
the goalpost just keeps getting moved farther and farther back. That's what happens.
Man, I said when they first said that about the tea, I said, okay, we're gonna put his foot in his mouth now, because you can't come out straight away and say, oh, it's in the tea I was drinking, and then once that got shot down, you come back trying to say, oh, it was this or it was that or I ain't never done it. It's like, no, you basically admitted that, oh, it must have been in my tea. So you already done said that, yeah, I put this in my system. Now let me try to find an excuse for why it's in there. Just like Canelo with the so-called beef.
Yeah, exactly, with the tainted beef. And here's my thing about and I said this in one of my videos. Even if you eat something that has those things in it, it's not going to be enough for you to test positive, I don't think. I don't think there's going to be enough clenbuterol in meat that you're going to come back with a positive test. I really don't think so. I really doubt it. I don't think there's going to be enough. What did they say? Phetamine or something like that. He got caught in. Let's say one glass of tea or one cup of tea. Yeah, let's see. I mean, let's just take it back to I'm a little teacup short and stout days. I don't think there's going to be enough of that stuff to test dirty in that little cup of tea. Like,
Yeah,
that's just my
right.
opinion.
That's like a 55 gallon drum of tea.
Yeah, it's like for me personally, like you would have to eat maybe like 7 pounds of meat in order to like pop hot or something
Half,
like that.
eat a half a cow.
Exactly, exactly. Like eat all of that and then pop hot. And then the messed up thing about it is Bernard Hopkins hasn't said a word.
No, he
He
ain't gonna say
said
nothing.
he was talking about Earl Spence's eye injury and stuff like that, but no words about this, huh?
Nah, he ain't gonna have anything to say about it. And I tell you, man, people acting like, oh, it's just a diuretic, it's just this, it's just that, and the thing is, man, almost anything that you take, even stuff we take over the counter or prescribed for my daughters, if not taken properly, can be dangerous, right? So, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of things are, they're controlled substances. With this one is a schedule. I forget what schedule it is, but it falls under a classification where it has to be controlled, because if it's not taken right, it can kill you. And did you used to watch the Police Academy movies? You there?
Yeah, I saw a couple. I saw a
Okay.
couple of
Well,
Police Academy. Yeah.
you remember the guy that used to be in the NFL? They call him Hightower in the
Ye-
movies, but his name was Bubba Smith.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, he died from an overdose of this stuff, the same
Uh,
drug.
yeah, guess what? I'm gonna tell you something too. Um, Michael Johnson, you know the Michael Johnson, the sprinter,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
The 200 and 400 meter sprinter.
right.
Um, the thing is about him is that no, he never tested, got caught positive, but he definitely was on some stuff. And the reason why he was on some stuff is because like the long term effects of it is that thing can mess up your heart. And so I was surprised to know that like I think it was a couple of maybe a couple of years back he had a stroke. He had like a heart I think it was like a heart failure type thing. And so that just tells me that um that stuff you never know what that stuff can do to your body, but they still inject it in their body to like try to get the edge, basically, you know.
Bill Romanowski, who played for the Raiders, you remember him? The guy was like one of the nastiest players in the NFL.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I
He
do
used to,
remember him.
he used to take this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like all the time, routinely. He actually got charged with fraud for because he was fraudulently obtaining the medicine, and he said that basically, you know, this stuff made him feel like he take it right for the game, made him feel like he could run through a wall. You know, so there's some performance enhancing benefits to it. You know, people can try to shoot it down and water it down all they want. You know what I'm saying? The guys, these guys wouldn't be messing with this stuff and get that benefit. Them, just like Click Canelo with the
Yeah.
commuterol. When you start looking up what the benefit of commuterol are, you'd
Hmm.
understand why a boxer would take it.
Facts. Facts. Definitely. Definitely. And that's how I feel. Like these people know what they're doing. Like it's not by coincidence that they're taking these things, you know, and they're putting the other guy at more jeopardy to getting hurt because now you have to look at it and you have to look at it in the sense that like how long has Canelo been on this stuff? I personally, in my personal opinion, this is just my personal opinion, and I could be wrong, but I think honestly Canelo started using the crap when he fought Austin Trout, and then he just got kept doing more and more and more because when you look at him fighting Cotto, he was huge in that fight. It was huge. And so it just like goes to show that yeah, man, this is not cool. Now, what do you think of what Caleb Plant was saying? Like, what do you think? Because I was actually surprised that you know you didn't hear it. Like Team Canelo went at Devin Haney when he said that they're all on some stuff, but team I haven't seen any tweets that Caleb Plant has received any tweets from Team Canelo at all.
Yeah, I don't think they want to. I don't think they want to go back and forth with him, and you know because that fight's pending. You know what I'm saying? I think that's probably part of it. But then again, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they're gonna act like they don't see it for a while, and then come back and you know act like they just see it, start saying something. You know, I mean, it's just crazy to me, man. Because I'm glad that these guys are speaking out. I think some of these guys have felt like okay, we gave it a pass when it was Canelo. We gave him benefit of the doubt, but it's too many guys coming out of that same camp popping up with different banned substances. And then they know that the only reason these guys are getting a pass is because of their affiliation with Canelo, like you said. So that's what's making these guys speak out, man. I mean, I'll be honest, man. Canelo does you know, a lot of things that give him advantages, even when it comes to negotiations. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I understand flexing the A side and all that, but some of the stuff ridiculous. And I want these fighters to be called them out on these things.
Not to cut you off, he does a lot of things. I mean, one of the things that really like blows my mind is that he actually which will call it? He actually puts these weight clauses on them. Uh the thing is like let's say hypothetically Canelo fought Bivol or Baturbiev in September, they would be at a major disadvantage because number one, he's going to add a weight clause on it and a hydration clause. Number two, they're not going to have a full training camp to prepare. And chances are, I'm thinking because they maybe know this is life changing money, he would have convinced them that, oh, you don't need VADA, you know? You still there?
Hey, you hear me?
Yeah, I can
Hello?
hear you. Yeah, I
Yeah,
can hear you.
I ain't messed around.
Yeah, nah, but yeah, that you're right that he does all these funny things, you know? I mean, I
Yeah.
get, like you said, I get a side. I get it. But it's
Well,
like you're not giving the guy a chance at all.
what I was trying to say though, before I mess around and mess my phone up, but what I was saying though, man, you got guys who, regardless of what they're already earning and opportunities they're getting, they look at certain fights as this is a, career altering fight. And sometimes I think these guys get too over anxious for opportunities and they put themselves in situations where they're stacking it, they're allowing the deck to be stacked against them, and they're going along with it for the opportunity, but they're not, you know what I'm saying? And then when they come up short, they're right back where they were. Yeah, they got the money, but they didn't advance their career. And when you look at like you think about Chad Dawson when he was the kingpin at 175, but he never got the credit because he was beating all these old guys who were they were the top guys in the division, and he cleaned them out. But no, he beat Bernard Hopkins, he beat Tarver, he beat Glenn Johnson. I think he beat all of them twice, and then he basically ran I forget the other guy's name that went up a cruiserweight, the Polish guy. He beat him and he left the division, went to cruiser. So he was the king, he was the guy, but he wouldn't get any credit. So Andre Ward came out of Super Six with all this hype around him, and he thought he felt he could beat Andre Ward. So he was like, he basically put his foot in his mouth and said he'd go down to 168 for the fight, and then he went down to 168. He had no punch resistance. You know what I'm saying? And every time Ward touched him, he went down. So I think sometimes these guys, out of frustration with how their career is moving, or they see an opportunity that just seems like it's a great changing opportunity, and they put themselves at a deficit for the opportunity. So a lot of guys have done that with Canelo. They've agreed to
True.
terms that they would have never agreed to with anybody else because it was Canelo.
And to piggyback off of that, for example, the Billy Joe Saunders, right? Billy Joe Saunders is already, in my opinion, Billy Joe Saunders has retired from boxing. He's not going to fight again. The thing is that could. I'm sorry to say it, but when people fight Canelo, usually it's a cash out fight. You know, that's what I think. Like when you fight Canelo, it's a cash out fight for the
So you
most part.
so you concede to whatever terms to get. I mean, even like Daniel Jacobs. Daniel
Right,
Jacobs. Just agreeing to whatever. You know, just want to fight.
right, right,
But you know
right.
what? Fans expect that. Like when Plant was holding his ground on what he wanted in negotiations. Man, he ought to just take whatever Canelo gives him, man. That's it. He got to fight for the opportunity. Like, man, you're not the one getting your ass in the ring. It's
Exactly.
called negotiation for a reason.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's how I feel about it too. Like you can't just like let this dude bully you because that's what he likes to do. And the thing is, the odds are already stacked against you as it is. You're not only fighting Canelo, you're fighting the judges, you're fighting PEDs, and you're fighting possibly being in like hostile territory.
The
You're
ref. I
fighting a
mean,
really, huh?
I said sometimes even the ref. The ref can dictate the ebb and flow of a fight a lot of times. Man, won't let a guy work when he gets inside. You know what I'm saying? Guy hurts another guy. The ref won't. You know what I'm saying? He stops the action. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Right.
look at that.
It's true. It's true. It's
So it's a
true.
lot. It's a lot to be stacked against you.
It's true. It's very true. You know, it's very true. Um, and I mean, everybody is looking forward to this fight, and it's just for me. I'm going to say this: I respect the skill of Caleb Plant. I think he has like some good skills. I think he's skillful. I think that we brothers have taught him a lot. Like I'm gonna just be real, bro. And maybe this is gonna sound like an asshole, but he's Daniel's son, and the likes of like Floyd Mayweather, the likes of Muhammad Ali, the likes of like those type of fighters, Andre Ward, they're Mr. Miyagi's.
Right.
and Caleb Plant is Daniel's son.
Correct.
So it's like he said all these things on Twitter. So I'm just hoping to God he comes with it.
Yeah, he has to because he's like you say,
It's like
bulletin board material, locker room material. He's provided it, so now he has to show up and show out.
he really does. It's like he really has to do that because now it's like those words can't be taken back. You know what I mean? He has to show up.
You know
He has to.
the bad thing about it is I think he has his suspicions, about Canelo in the drug test, and I think he kind of voiced that when the negotiations stalled because he said that one of the things Canelo didn't want to do was go ahead and start the random drug testing. He said
Yeah,
it was
that's
like
true. That's true.
a lot of people glossed over that and just talked about the rematch clause and the stipulation Canelo wanted about, well, if he had to pull out of the plan, he get to pick who he want to fight as an opponent and all this and that and other. But the part that really stuck with me was he said that he think that it had something to do with the drug testing. That Canelo didn't wasn't ready to start the drug testing.
I have a
So
question. Yeah, and you have a good point on that. And I was talking about that too. I was like, who, how do we know Canelo's not cycling off his crap? You know what I mean? So I I have a question to you. Everybody in the camp, in the Canelo camp, they have came and they have knocked out their last opponents. You had Oscar Valdez, he knocked out Verchel. You had Ryan Garcia, he stopped Luke Campbell with a body shot. And then you had Canelo, he stopped
Billy Joe Saunders face.
yeah, Billy Joe Saunders with the uppercut.
Hey, and
And then
Ryan Garcia retired Luke Campbell.
exactly, Ryan Garcia retires Luke Campbell, right? Now, the one thing I noticed about all these fighters, and then I think Frank Sanchez, he actually, the guy he was fighting, he stopped. I think something about like a rabbit punch or something like that. I don't know what it was.
I want Frank Sanchez out from over there. I heard you saying that earlier. I want because I don't want him tied up in no nonsense if say if it really goes down over there.
Right, 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 right. Now, with all that being said, because here's the thing about me. I like old school trainers. I like trainers who really teach boxing. I really enjoy trainers who teach boxing, period. But really teach it though. So I like Kevin Cunningham. I like Bozy Ennis, especially him. When you see
I
how
like Barry Hunter.
yeah, when you see how Bozy works with his athletes, you're like, man, he knows boxing. When you look at Ishmael Salas work with his athletes, you're like, house of he calls it the house of fundamentals for a reason. Props to him. You look at Paul Andre, who's Demetrius Andre's father, you listen to him in the corner, and you're like, okay, this guy knows his stuff. Do you think that Eddie Reynoso is a trainer or a pad man who says, since I got the candy, I don't have to really worry about my guy. My guy is gonna knock that guy out anyway because I already know what I have. What do you think? Because I'm gonna be honest, all of his fighters are flat-footed. Every single last one of his fighters are flat-footed,
Yeah,
from Ryan Garcia to Oscar Valdez to Canelo. All of them lack footwork. So
you know
this
what,
just
man?
go ahead.
You know what I think about that? I think yeah, he's a trainer because you can see subtle differences in those guys and how they fight with him. But I don't think footwork is a big staple of that camp. I don't think, and I think for two reasons. One, a lot of these guys are already set in the way The way they go about, how they, position themselves in the ring and their footwork. And I think the other thing is that if they really spent the time that they need to spend on footwork, it would take away from the other things that are working for them. So it's like they're getting away with it because the other things that they're doing well is cleaning up the fact that they don't have great footwork. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like if you think about Deontay Wilder, there's a lot of things he could do better than he does, but he was getting away without doing it for so long because he was catching guys where he knew his power would bail him out. So it's almost like in a way he got lazy in the ring. And he probably got lazy in training too. I'm not saying he was. I'm just, saying it's a possibility. So if you look at it like that, what I'm saying, you could have a whole camp of guys whose trainer's mindset is, well, we'll work on this stuff because this is what's winning us fights. Yeah, we have our deficiencies with footwork and this, that, and the other, but we're not going to spend all camp working on trying to correct something that we may not ever be able to correct with you guys. Now with Sanchez, I think he's a little bit different because of he has so much of a background, of being a Cuban, going through the Cuban school. So for him, it's kind of second nature. For these other guys, I mean, it's almost I mean, not to generalize, but most of those fighters, what I'm saying, most of those Mexican fighters are flat-footed, so it's in the fact that, he got a camp full of them that are, that fight that way. I just can't see him trying to change. But I mean, I know he's not the only one that trains over there either. I think there's like two or three other guys that do some
Hmm.
training in that gym as well. Which that's
Hmm.
most gyms.
Hmm. Now, one may argue, and I'm kind of segueing here. One may argue that okay, Virgil Ortiz, he just knocked out Mean Machine. Now, Jerron Ennis, he gets Thomas Delorme, and so of course people are not going to be satisfied at it, and people are going to throw shots at him. But is it really his fault when he can't get a fight?
And I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with that fight anyway because, and to answer the question, no, it's not. But I don't have a problem with that because Delorme, if you look at how Delorme fights and what he brings to brings to the table, he's nothing like the guy who's been fighting. So I think that's a good thing that he's going to get a different wrinkle because, to be honest, for a while, Boots was like recycling the same guy over and over and over. You know what I'm saying? So many of those guys fought the same way. And you know what I'm saying? To me, it'll be good for him because he needs to see different looks. You get what I'm saying? So even if the guy's not a threat to knock him out or whatever the case may be, and he gotta have several losses, it's a possibility that he could he could find a way to give Boots the rounds that he needs to get, and show him some stuff that he needs to see because once you get to the tip top, you know what I'm saying, you don't want to find out that you're not ready for certain things because you haven't seen them yet. So yeah, but you know what I'm saying. And the other thing is, with Boots is he's made it clear that he wants to fight, but I think he's just humble enough and understands that right now he's not in a position to get those fights, and he's not going to get those fights without help.
Right. Uh, it's and I everybody knows I'm big on boots. I'm gonna be honest, and people think I sound crazy, but there's been many interviews where they've asked Boots, they're like, "Who do you think is the best welterweight in the world?" And Boots will say me, and I'll be like, "Yeah, I kind of got to say yes to that. I kind of got to say yes to that." Um, Now we may say that he's not in position to get those fights, and we understand that because those guys maybe want to fight each other. That's just it. For example, Sean Porter may want the rematch with Ugas or something like that. It's just those guys want to fight each other. We get that.
So, well, it's a For a guy like Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, even Keith Thurman, I'll look at the top guys who are coming off losses, who had recent losses, and even throw Aiden Broner in there. For those type guys to fight Boots right now, it's an admission that you're done at the very top. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
so even if it's not a matter of them feeling like they're scared to fight the guy or feeling like, well, it's too much risk, not enough reward. Who wants to enable just a couple fights removed from fighting the upper echelon, the upper crust, to have to say, now I'm relegated to trying to keep this guy from getting to the very top. By definition, what is that? That's a gatekeeper, right?
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, this is the unfortunate thing about where those guys are. Those guys are former champions. Those guys are champions. So I would love to see those fights. Don't get me wrong. I would love to see them fight Boots or whatever the case may be. But I understand, however, that um, if they were to entertain Boots, then it would be honestly, unfortunately, a step back for them. You know what I mean?
And,
It
and,
would
it,
be
and it
like
may be it may be a step back from which there's no return.
exactly. Yeah, it'll be a step back for them if they decided to fight Boots. You know what I mean? Now one thing I found interesting, and it gave me a little bit of hope, is that the WBC, or no, the WBA has decided to remove the
Rough tags.
interim titles.
Yeah.
So this could potentially open up more fights. Now, one of the fights is Rowley versus Tank. Do you think that Floyd Mayweather will actually allow that fight to happen?
I thought about that actually today because I saw something or post about it, and I honestly think it depends on how Floyd feels about Rolly. I think it's if Floyd feels like, okay, Rolly's not going to be who we thought he was going to be. Um, it's a good way to get him a nice payday and to shut him up at the same time. You know what I'm saying? If because he could be just as annoying to Floyd as he is to some of us. I mean, he's entertaining and annoying at the same time. So
True,
it could
true,
be,
very true.
okay. You know what? You say you want this fight. If you who you say you are, quiet. You go out there and win. If you lose, get to the back of the line.
True,
Because
true.
even though Tank is who he is, for a guy
Hmm.
like Rolly goes out there and loses to Tank. It's probably gonna be bad, and it's gonna be a tough climb just to get back to where he is now.
True, true, true. I don't know the relationship between Rowley and Floyd.
Yeah, I heard
When
Rolly
you
say some stuff about Floyd don't run his career and all this and that and the other. Those are the type things that you say that could make Floyd say, okay, I done had enough of this little dude.
well, here's another thing too. You haven't even heard Floyd come out and say about Rowley, like, oh, this guy is next up, this guy is a hell of a fighter, or anything like that. You haven't even heard Floyd say that,
I think they
or
see
any,
Rolly just like we do. He's a raw product who
yeah.
needs a lot of refining and he needs a lot of, work to get to be, what they need him to be.
Well, hell, put it this way: Floyd hasn't even worked with Rowley. You don't even see Floyd working with Rowley in the gym.
Seems
Or
like I see Rolly working with Teofimo Lopez all the time.
exactly, exactly. That's why I'm saying. Like you see more of that than you do with him actually working with Floyd.
Which to me is kind of confusing because if you really want to be champion in a division, I get it that this guy's your friend, but when you're right there as an interim champion and you say you want to become a champion, I think it's time to stop working out with your buddy because your buddy's supposed to be your rival at this point,
Right.
unless one of y'all are gonna lead the division.
Mm-hmm.
So that if you listen to Rolly talk, he talks like he don't want to fight Teofimo Lopez. I mean,
Nah, he
he kind of like he used that buddy card.
uh, you know what it is, I think that he's gonna do. I honestly believe that he's gonna wait until Tiafimo moves up to 140, and then that's when you'll probably hear more of the call outs for other people and stuff like that. But I honestly
He's gonna
think,
want a shot at a vacant title.
yeah,
Teofimo
exactly.
if he moves up with and vacates some belts.
Exactly. That's why I think his game is
Yeah,
that,
and they probably talked about it.
yeah, yeah,
They probably talked about it. Yeah, we're not gonna fight him when I move up. This will be your division.
yeah, exactly. Like he's just biding his time. Like, okay, well, you know what I mean? Like just hold tight and then let me do what I need to do and then like go ahead, it's all yours. You know what I mean? That's why I believe that's gonna be the case, you know. That's how I look at I see that playing out that way. I don't see it playing out in a way that he's gonna put the friendship uh card aside and then he's gonna fight. I don't see it going like that at all. I don't see them fighting each other at all. You know, truthfully speaking, I don't think they sparred each other. Sure, you know, don't get it twisted. They did get work and sparring, but at the same time, a fight would be kind of exciting if they decided to fight. You know, because both of them got power.
I mean, I don't see nothing wrong with it.
Yeah,
I mean, I'd watch it.
yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? And like honestly, I think they should put that aside. That friendship card aside if the fight can be made. And I think Floyd would make the fight too because he looks at it as a potential that, okay, well, if he pulls this off, I'm going to have some of the belts at my stable now. You know what I mean?
Yep,
He'll be like, I'll have more money now if I let this dude just go over there fight on whatever network. You know, Floyd will be like, well, now I got more money. You know, thanks to that guy. Thanks uh for me to like to take that risk, you know. That's what Floyd will probably say.
pieces on the chessboard.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep,
Floyd would do that. Floyd would be like, now I got more like leverage, you know what I mean?
that's for
Because
sure.
Floyd knows the business. Now, here's another thing though that I was talking about. And people think I sound crazy. People think I really sound crazy. I'm like, yo, so just give him like maybe three more fights, give him two more fights. Although he says he's ready right now, but I just say, yeah, give him like three more fights, two more fights. But because that WBA thing is in effect, you have another guy by the name of David Morell Jr.
Right.
who has a interim title, I believe, at 168. So the thing I'm looking at, this is what I'm looking at, it's what is going to happen next. Because if those interim belts are removed and the regular champion is such and such, then that means I believe that he would have winner of that Plant Canelo fight.
He's supposed to fight he's supposed to fight the regular champion,
And so
whoever that is right now. I I forgot who it was.
is it
Um,
Canelo?
mm-mm, no,
Not it's not Canelo at 168?
Melo's the super champion. I'm talking about whoever
Okay.
because Morel's the interim. He won the interim belt. I thought. or
Okay,
did he
yeah,
win the
he has
regular?
the interim. So who's the regular
Yeah,
champion now?
somebody's the regular, but I can't remember who it is. But whoever that is, that's who he's supposed to fight.
Okay, I need to
And
find out. I need to do my research. I need to do my research and find out who the regular champion is then.
unless they don't have one, some of these divisions, one sometimes they don't have a regular championship because they've,
Yeah.
it's like say for instance when they just fought the
Mm-hmm.
regular, if the regular like when just like take for instance when Pacquiao and Thurman, they were the
Yeah.
regular and super champion, the belt became vacant and it
Right.
wasn't claimed until Ugas and I forgot the guy's name. Ugas fought Figueroa, wasn't it? And the
Yeah,
Ugas
I
and
think yeah.
Figueroa fight for the
Ugas
vacant title.
fought Figueroa. Yeah,
Yeah.
Ugas fought
So
Figueroa. Yep.
so that for a while that title was just sitting out there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
that could be the situation with 68. I'm not sure. But then again, so you know what? For some reason, I think John Ryder is the damn regular champion.
Really?
I,
Because here's the crazy thing. John Ryder
I
was
think he fought somebody after he fought Caleb Smith, and for
Calvin
the regular,
Smith. Yeah.
yeah, after he
Yeah,
fought Smith,
Calvin Smith.
I think
Yeah.
he
Yeah,
fought
he
somebody
fought
else for
Calvin Smith.
yeah,
He
but I
he,
think
he
he
fought
fought
Calvin
somebody else.
Smith.
Yeah, I think he fought somebody else after that for the regular title. I might be wrong though. I feel like he
Oh,
beat
okay.
Calvin Smith. I feel like he beat Calvin Smith though.
Yeah, nah. He fought Calvin Smith, and I think they were talking about that David Morrell was supposed to fight John Ryder, you know, but I think John Ryder ducked the fade. I believe John Ryder ducked it because David Morrell, the Team Morrell was talking about like, okay, yeah, we just got to get ready to fight John Ryder. That's a tough opponent. That's supposed to be our next fight. We're looking for the venue, things like that. But on John Morrell's side, or I mean on John Ryder's side, he's talking about like, oh well, we don't have any like the fight is not scheduled or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like so I think that, John Ryder got cold feet, you know? And I can see why. Because I mean, I know I sound like a little far fetched, but uh I think David Morrell is Erislandy Lara 2.0,
Hey,
basically.
I just looked it up. Morel actually is the regular champion.
Oh, so he's the regular champion. So
I don't know. I don't know if he was the interim and he got moved to regular when they done away with the titles. Because I could have swore he
yeah,
won an interim title, but then again, maybe it was the
yeah, I
regular he
thought he
won.
won an interim title too.
Yeah, they
I
got him
thought it was
listed as the
interim.
regular. They got him listed as the regular under Canelo now. With,
Oh, really?
hmm
So you know what that means.
he'll be the mandatory if as long as he keep winning.
So Canelo better be ready for that. And I don't think he's gonna be ready for that.
Yeah,
I really don't.
but you know what? They'll excuse Canelo not fighting a guy with 5, 6 fights or whatever. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
no,
saying?
they will. Nah,
Yeah.
hey, but guess what? Canelo would fight him if he had the regular championship, bro. He would jump on that. Like say if he was the say if he was the super champion, right? Canelo would be like, yeah, I gotta fight that guy to get undisputed. Even if he didn't, even if it was just that many fights, Canelo would be like, well, I still gotta fight him. You know what I mean? He would still fight him with that little fights because there's the belt. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you have to question. The thing is with how Canelo moves, it brings up a lot of talking points. That's the whole thing. For example, he snatched the belt at 175. He fought over the hill Kovalev, legacy, going for legacy and stuff like that, right? But he didn't stick around at 175 because he knew what was up there at 175.
They were
When
trying to cheat history. They were trying to put on this facade that he was matching Henry Armstrong by holding 3 belts simultaneously in 3 different divisions, which was a farce because
yeah,
he had the regular belt, you know, He didn't fight Callum Smith and win the super belt at the super championship at that time. He fought the guy Callum Smith had already knocked out and all that.
Right,
What they got Rocky Fielding.
right. And so here's another thing too about that whole situation. He like people will say, "Oh, how can he clout chase when he's the face of boxing?" Okay, you clout chase by saying you want to fight someone to make it look like you want to fight someone, and to make your fans say "Oh, he's trying to fight the best. Oh, he's trying to really fight these guys.
Giving the
Oh,
fans ammunition to go
yeah,
fight
yeah."
your battle for you.
And so and so the fans become more like delusioned by what you're doing. They become more delusioned.
And
So
what do
now
they say?
you'll have fans say, "Oh, well, he tried to fight Bivol. Oh, he tried to fight Beterbiev."
Right,
But the reality is he wasn't really trying to fight those guys. So
right.
that's the real reality.
So
He
that's
had
the same
no
thing.
intention of fighting them.
He's never had any intentions to fight Andrade either. So that was a little bit about what that was about as well. Well, I'm not gonna fight Andrade. I'll go up here and I'll risk losing to this 175 pounder before I risk losing to Andrade. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Boo Boo was never in the question for Canelo, and I talked to Demetrius Andre's dad, and I talked to his strength and conditioning coach. Um, the reason why Boo Boo wasn't one of the main reasons why Boo Boo was never in contention for Canelo is not just the stylistic problems that Boo Boo will probably present, but the fact that Boo Boo was willing to pay for testing.
Right.
You know, he was willing to pay for the testing, like because that's what he does every fight. He's like, yeah, I got to make sure that they're not on some stuff.
I
You
feel
know,
that. And see, that's
It-
the thing that pissed me off back to what we were talking about originally.
yeah,
Why, one thing people start saying about this, when they were saying, it's just a diuretic, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, why is it fair for these guys to take, you know, drugs to lose weight when these other guys got to do it the right way? And, you know what I'm
yeah, they
saying?
gotta like, yeah, they gotta like kill themselves to like make weight.
Right.
They have to really like do some intense stuff to make weight. And here's another thing too that I say. This is my thing. This is just my thing. I try to use logic. If you can't make weight, then just move up.
Move your ass up. And that's the other thing, right? These guys paying for the drug test. Like, how, so think about how a fighter would feel. They're spending their money. They don't make that much money. Like, they're the B-side fighter, right? And they're
Yeah,
spending money for vital tests. And the other guy parts dirty and he's allowed to go ahead and fight. Give me my money back then, you know?
exactly. What's the point of VADA then? What's the point of VADA testing if that's my thing now? What's the point of VADA then? If you're gonna let dirty fighters fight, what then VADA? All you're doing is collecting a check. Then that's it. You're not helping nothing. You're not.
And collecting the check and putting a further in WBC's cap as being the champion for clean boxing. But then when it's these Mexican fighters, they want to move thresholds and say, it's not a PED.
Yo,
And it's done.
yo,
Like, come on.
you know what, bro? Truthfully speaking, and this is sad. As sad as it sounds, bro, I think what you would call it. I think WBC and VADA testing are in cahoots together. To be honest.
Well, I think the WBC is going. I said this the other day that I think they're gonna they're gonna mess around and get rid of VADA because every time they don't agree with what VADA does, they'll
Hmm.
they'll they'll say, well, we're gonna go with WADA standards or we're gonna go with somebody else's standards. But
You
it's
know what
like
standards that they don't
if
go
you
with
make
though? You
USADA,
know what? They never go with USADA
no,
standards.
no, they're not gonna do that.
They never go with USADA because USADA that's blood testing, bro,
That
and
that's
that's
that
what they don't want.
Nah, they know what they're doing, and that's what I said. So I'm like, if they, I think they're gonna eventually go with water because they
Yeah,
they keep every time they don't want to agree with something that you said the WADA says. They say,
Hmm.
well, the WADA standards are such and such and such. We're gonna go with that.
Exactly, exactly,
It's
exactly.
bull
That's
crap.
what they do.
And really, what they're doing is they're discrediting WADA every time they do
Yep.
that.
Yep.
You know, then I seen a YouTube channel. Got one of the popular boxing YouTube channels. He made a smear video against Vada, talking about they came in and drug tested the guy and they didn't have a cup for him to pee in, so they got the cup that I don't even want to repeat what he said because it was just so outlandish. But
Crap, bro. You know
but
what?
he really he was like Oscar Valdez is the cleanest fighter in all of boxing. I know this for a
Oh
fact.
hell no. Oh hell
Yeah,
no. You
yeah.
know what, bro? I hate to say names. I really hate to say names.
Hey, it's your channel. I didn't want to say his name because it ain't my
Yeah.
channel.
You know, I hate to say names, but the one guy who just like really makes me like,
Groupie, the groupie in all the Mexican gyms.
yeah, he's like the groupie of all groupies. There's two of them. And I'm just gonna say their name, and if they come to here and they hear me, I'll take the smoke. You know what I mean? I'll take the smoke. They can come on their channel, this channel. They can explain their logic. I can refute their logic and stuff like that. I'll take the smoke, no problem. But there's two. There's Lalo's boxing, and there's IBFP boxing. When I say groupies, I mean groupies galore. I mean, like, honestly, I even, he doesn't answer me, but I even said to IBFP Boxing, I said, if Canelo got caught with drag and sniffing coke, you would still support him and find an excuse for him. I said it on one of the comments on the bottom. He still tried to defend Oscar Valdez getting caught for some shit. He still tried to like come out and cap for him, and I'm like, oh my god, bro, like this is crazy. And then and then it's just like blatantly obvious like what they're doing. You know, it's like they tap dance around their real feelings. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree 100%. Well, man, I
Yeah,
appreciate you. Let me hop on and chop it up with you, man. I got to go and lay it down. It's about 3 a.m. over here, man.
yeah, man. You know what? I'm gonna do the same thing, bro. But we got to make this more often, man. We got to like set up a time and schedule where we can just like exchange from each other's strings. Like if you go live, I go over there. If I go live, you come over here, and we can just kick the stuff because this is
Yeah,
what we need.
most
Yeah.
definitely.
So yeah, we got to do that more. You know, that's what I want to do with like with the subscribers. Like when one of my subscribers go live, then I go over there. When I go live, they come over here, and we just like pretty much like bounce off each other. You know what I mean? Like your audience, I get familiar with your audience.
It's always good to have a different point of view, man, because you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying, a different perspective. Even if you agree on it, you're gonna
yeah,
still see it from a different angle. You know, yeah.
exactly, exactly. I'm all for that. I'm all for that.
But
Yeah, but
we'll definitely link up then, man. That's for sure.
yeah, for sure. And what I'm gonna do too is like inshallah, I'm gonna try to get some other people on here, and then like people can ask questions. I need to like reach out to these other fighters and stuff like that, see if they're gonna get on. I'm pretty sure they will.
Bet that up then, man.
All right,
All right. Well,
take
I'll
it
catch you
easy,
next
man.
time, man. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, likewise, man. Thanks for
All right.
coming on.
Oh yeah, no
All
doubt.
right, all right. So we just had a good dialogue. I'm just gonna end this with like with a brief track and field um intermission. You know, I try to keep it to myself, but I'm just gonna say it that, you know, Shakari Richardson, she needs a different coach, and she needs to like separate from the people that she's with right now because they're not doing her no favors. So if I were her, I would like separate from the people that she with right now and get a new coach that focuses on good running technique and not just strength and running straight up in the air. And maybe there will be more success, because the thing that she has success in the most right now is having people talk about her. But she doesn't really have any success on the track as it stands right now. So she would be good to separate from who she is, who she's with. The Jamaicans have been still consistent. The women Jamaicans are still consistent. And even the men Jamaicans are still consistent. Hansel Hansel Parchment has seemed to have found like a second wind, and it seems like he's peaking now. It seems like Hansel Parchment is peaking in the hurdles, and he's doing good work. Brussels was today. Shikari, she didn't get a last place finish, but she got a fourth place finish in the 200 meters. The Namibian girl, Christine Mbomba, I think, beat her. And yeah, so she needs to be separated. You have also Kirani James, who ran the 400 meters today. He barely lost out to, I think it was Michael Cherry that won that race. Kirani James got second place in that race. But it just goes to show Kirani James's consistency in the running. So that just shows you how good this guy really is, you know. And I mean, Shelly Ann Fraser Price nor Elaine Thompson didn't run in this meet, in this Brussels meet. So, we just got to wait and see what happens. I wouldn't blame them if they take the rest of the season off, because I mean they were in the Olympic Games, so they need to take some time, recover, because you have to be in optimal condition if you're going to run a 10.5 or a 10.4. You know what I mean? That's just the bottom line. But anyhow, I'm going to end this stream. Shout outs to D-Lo, 404 Boxing. Subscribe to his channel. He doing good things over there. And if anybody else catches a replay, y'all like and subscribe to this channel as well. Fuller signing out. Njadam.